Welcome, everyone. My name is Leila Toplik. I'm the Chief Communications and Trust Officer at Carbon Future, and it is my pleasure to be the host for today's webinar. Today, we will talk about monitoring, reporting, and verification of carbon removal and the important role that it plays in making carbon removal market more trustworthy, more efficient, and more scalable. And we will hear from the industry leaders about their real-world experiences with MRV. And it's my pleasure to welcome our speakers, Misha Repman, Senior Risk Manager at Swiss Re, Dana Fuchs, Chief Operating Officer at Puro.Earth, Diego Justiniano, President of Exomat Green, and Duncan Kariuki, Co-founder and Chief Product Officer at Octavia Carbon. One thing to note, Duncan is actually joining us from their new direct air capture facility in Rift Valley in Kenya. So in case his video doesn't work, he's still with us. He will be answering the questions via audio, but for now we can see him. Welcome, Misha, Benno, Diego, and Duncan. On to the next slide. Now, here's a couple of things to know about how to engage both during the webinar and after the webinar. You can post your questions in the chat and also in the Q&A. I do want to thank many of you who sent questions through the registration, and we will get to some of those questions during the discussion. The session recording will be sent to all of you following the webinar, so by tomorrow. And you can follow us on LinkedIn and subscribe to our newsletter to hear about upcoming webinars. In fact, at the end of this webinar, we will be announcing the next webinar in our MRV series. Next slide. Now, here's what we're going to cover today. Just given that we have a very diverse group of participants in this webinar with varied knowledge of MRV, we'll kick off with a quick overview of what MRV is and also give you a quick update on the work that we're doing at Carbon Future. Then we'll hear from our speakers, and that's where we'll spend most of our time today. We'll talk about how buyers are assessing carbon removal projects and what is the role of MRV in their decision-making. We'll talk about how our suppliers using MRV to access the market, to access the buyers for their carbon removal projects and to improve efficiency. And then we'll also talk about what is the role of the standards and how they collaborate with MRV providers. So a lot to cover, and much of this webinar is really shaped by the questions and topics that you have shared with us in advance. Next slide. Now, just to level set and make sure that everybody can follow along, let's quickly define what MRV is. These three letters stand for monitoring, reporting, and verification. MRV ensures that carbon removal activities are accurately monitored, that they are transparently reported, and they are independently verified. MRV essentially creates a comprehensive data trail from carbon capture to credit issuance. And this is actually key for having transparency on credit quality for the buyers and also having data for any audits and future compliance. Now, why is this necessary? Without a reliable way to verify carbon removal claims, there's really no way to guarantee that the promised climate benefits are real. This could put buyers and stakeholders at risk, not only financially, but also in terms of reputation. So MRV essentially ensures that carbon removal credits are legitimate, which builds trust and reduces risk for everyone involved. Now, let's take a look on the next slide at the carbon removal journey and specifically the MRV role in it. And this is quite simplified just to give you a sense of what is the role of MRV in this process. Standard, like Pura, defines what data and documentation are needed to assess the quality of a CDR project. MRV, and in this example, I'm talking specifically about independent MRV. So independent MRV collects the data, the contracts, the chain of custody information from suppliers, and this could be via API integration with supplier ERP systems or IoT, and really ensures that all required information is available for third-party verification and certification. Now, if the MRV is digital, it can also flag anomalies so the suppliers can optimize their projects and help with standardization of data. Now, verifiers, these are independent third-party validation verification bodies that are accredited by standards. They receive that data and verify the project and issue a report. And then the standard reviews the report provided by the VVB, and if all requirements are met, issues a carbon removal credit. The credit is then listed on the standards registry with a unique ID and ready to be traded. And the verified carbon removal credit is sold to the companies that are looking to balance their emissions. So just for some context setting for the different roles and responsibilities, one thing that is important to note here, while there's verification mentioned in this name, MRV does not verify. It only supports verification by providing the data to the third-party verifiers. Going to the next slide. Now, there are different sort of flavors of MRV in the market today. So we thought it would be helpful to mention a few. This is a reflection in the sense of both a need for MRV and also the carbon removal market evolving or maturing. On the left-hand side, there's the example of MRV or data collection being done by a supplier. So how this works is a supplier reports all relevant carbon removal project data to the standard directly. Potential issue here could be that this model lacks independent oversight to ensure the data accuracy and also avoid potential conflicts of interest. Then another flavor of MRV in the market today is the one that might be done by a standard, which means that data collection is performed by a standard, which also they're responsible, as mentioned on the earlier slide, they're responsible for setting the rules and certifying carbon removal projects. Potential downside here is that as both rule setters and certifier standards could lower rigor to certify more projects, potentially compromising the integrity and the credibility of the carbon removal efforts. Now, there's also independent MRV, and this is conducted by independent third-party organization, oftentimes using digital technologies to ensure accuracy and efficiency. Now, what's the value here? By being independent from the supplier and from the standard, this type of MRV ensures unbiased data collection, eliminates any conflicts of interest, and protects confidentiality of the parties that are involved in this complex value chain. And if it's digital, this independent MRV can ensure more efficient and accurate verification through digital processes. At Carbon Future, we operate the independent digital MRV. So if we go to the next slide, let's zoom in on this independent digital MRV. What are some of the key benefits to some of the key stakeholders in the carbon removal market? For the buyers, independent DMRV ensures the quality, reliability, and credibility of carbon removal credits. It provides ongoing visibility through digital into project performance, and which enables proactive issue management and safeguarding against potential delivery risks. For the suppliers, independent DMRV streamlines reporting and certification. It protects, again, confidentiality of the various parties involved in this value chain, and also it allows suppliers to adapt to evolving standards and future compliance frameworks. And then for the standards, a very important stakeholder in the carbon removal market, independent DMRV can simplify verification certification processes by facilitating this kind of consistent, accurate data collection and reporting, while also improving efficiency in credit issuance with these digital processes. Now, if we go to the next slide, which is the last slide that I have for this context part of the webinar, just briefly, one example, as mentioned, of the independent DMRV is the work that we do at Carbon Future. It's Carbon Future MRV Plus. What's worth noting is that we've taken the MRV a step further with what we call MRV Plus to meet the needs specifically of the CDR suppliers and buyers. We've been doing this for the past 4 years. So what we noticed is that unlike traditional independent MRV systems, what is really important to be able to do is to provide early stage support for suppliers to get their projects off the ground. We also offer comprehensive due diligence of projects and also supplier operations, which ensures quality upstream. Our MRV Plus is designed to do automated data ingestion, data checks, which helps faster and more accurate verification by third-party verifiers. But it is important to be inclusive of all sorts of projects, including those that don't have digital infrastructure. So in addition to automation, we offer basically flexible data ingestion option that combines digital automation with human involvement and oversight. And then lastly, offering greater transparency while preserving confidentiality between the various parties involved and ensuring a streamlined and faster certification, which is something that suppliers care about. And in summary, we enable suppliers to track and optimize their CDR projects, share data directly with third-party verifiers, and for buyers to have a bit more confidence in what they're purchasing by having this data-driven transparency on credit quality. So with that, hopefully everybody's up to speed on what MRV is, why it's needed, what are some of the different options in the market today, and we'll actually dive now into the discussion and hear from the industry leaders about their real-world experiences with MRV. With that, I will ask each of the speakers to do a brief introduction on their work, on their organization's work in carbon removal and their interaction with MRV, and then we'll go straight into the questions. The first up is Misha from Swiss Re. Misha, over to you.
Thanks, Leila. Yes, happy to be here. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be part of this panel. It's a very technical panel, as you heard from Leila by now, and I try to make it as untechnical as possible because we have dirty hands. We went into